Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Moving Markets Podcast. It is Monday, June 22nd, 2026. The market's going to open in a second here. Um, there's the opening bell, and right out of the gate, we've got everything, almost everything, moving to the upside in this morning's market, and that's good. We love that. Um, Glad to be back. I last week, wonderful vacation with my family, wonderful family reunion. I was watching the market every day that it was open, but not as active in the kind of day-to-day stuff. Let me get on the right screen here for you really quickly. Um, Anyway, glad to be back. We're back to a very normal week for this week and next week. Of course, next week will be a holiday shortened week, second one out of 3 weeks in a row because we had the Juneteenth holiday, and then we're of course going to have the 4th of July. 4th of July is on a Saturday, but the U.S. stock market will be closed on the Friday before that to honor that a little bit. So. Well, like I said, we got a lot of positive stuff going on today. Not a major rally, and I'm surprised that the Nasdaq has just turned a little bit negative. It was up right at the open, and it was up in futures, down just a little tiny bit. But the Dow is, of course, doing well this morning. Continued rally happening on oil prices. And I would say, in addition to oil prices, you've probably got well, it's hand in hand. It's tied together so closely. You've got the situation going on over in Iran. Um, if you want to be optimistic, you look at what's going on there and say, yeah, progress is being made. That's what we're hearing. We want to be optimistic about that. We want to, whether you love the administration or hate the administration, whether you're a Trump fan or you can't stand the guy and the people around him, you still, I think everybody wants to see that resolution in Iran, and we want to believe these headlines when we see these. There was some jawing back and forth over the weekend. You had some Iranian minister was saying, that Trump made some comment about the Strait of Hormuz, and some Iranian administrator said, "No, we have total control over that. You can't do anything with that. It's 100% up to us and what we decide to do with it." And obviously, it's a little bit of I saw it as a little bit of trash talking, a little bit of back and forth. I didn't get super overly concerned about it. Again, you want to believe headlines like this. You want to believe that things are going well. You can see it reflected, at least as of a little while ago. Price of oil is down and continuing to go down. I think this is pretty incredible that we don't have a rock solid deal yet. But you've got oil. This is back down to about where it was. If you remember, oil was going up a little bit. It was a little bit on the rise before the Iran thing started. And so right before that sudden spike from the bombing in Iran, if we go back and look at a 6 month chart on this, right before that spike, oil was already moving up a little bit, and I believe right in this range, maybe not right at it, but right close to where we're at here. That's kind of where we were at just before the sudden spike and then the bigger spike. So we are actually close to, not at, but close to the prices we were prior to this Iran war starting. And to me, I see that as a pretty incredible thing. I wouldn't have wagered that prior to having a 100% signed, sealed, delivered, done deal, that we would be back to there on oil prices. And I think if we do get that deal 100% finalized, if it gets completely all the negotiations take place and it gets completely finalized the way we would certainly like it. I got to tell you, I think we're dropping back down to $65 a barrel oil, and you're going to see gas prices come down steadily. I guarantee it's not going to be as fast as you want from a political standpoint. And I bring up politics because of how much it does affect the market and it does affect trading. But from a political standpoint, The Republican Party wants to see these oil prices drop really, really quickly. And, I hate to say this. I think Democrats would love to see oil prices and gasoline prices stay high through the midterms because it's such a great talking point for them. So we'll see how it all plays out. All right, couple of things of interest specifically for us. If you've been in the AMD trade with me for a while, you're very happy right now. AMD up almost $7 a share right now. We are profitable in the trade after the adjustment we made at the end of last week. We are now profitable in the trade. You might want to get a little more profit out of yours. I would totally understand that. We've got the cost basis of this trade down to about 416. That's where mine is at. Yours might be a little higher, a little lower, depending on those adjustments, but I've got my cost basis down to 416. The mid, it dropped down in spite of it, AMD being up $7 a share. The mid is bouncing around a lot. I've seen it as low as 390 and up as high as 480. Anything above 416, you're profitable. Now, I think that over the next day and a half, AMD will continue to move up, but don't forget, we've got earnings on Micron coming up, I believe, on Wednesday after the close of the market, and you've got to watch that one really, really close. That if that earnings report for Micron comes in negative and Micron starts to really drop strong and drop heavy, it's going to drag AMD down with it. So you got to. My recommendation is if before any time before Micron reports on Wednesday, you have the ability to exit your AMD trade profitably. Doesn't have to be a lot of profit, and you've got to decide how much profit do you need in it. Right now, I have a limit order in place for 480. I would love to see it continue up and be able to get me to 480. But if I'm not at 480 by the middle of the day on Wednesday, and I could get out with, say, 440, 445, 450, I'm taking that and I'm jumping out. In fact, I would jump out without hesitation if I can get profit before Wednesday's Micron report. That Micron report makes me nervous. I'm going to try and do a trade on Micron. I would love to do a trade on Micron, so I'm going to be actively pursuing that. And we'll see if we can get into something good on Micron. But as of right now, it's just we got to get out of that AMD trade. Nvidia having a good movement up today, a good move to the upside. Our Nvidia trade, we've rolled it out a couple different times. We've had to work it a little bit. It's looking much improved right now. Very, very much improved after a few adjustments. Nvidia trading over the price that we need it to trade at to be profitable in our trade. You got to, again, Nvidia could have everything I said about AMD. Apply that same thing. I'm not going to repeat it all. Apply that same thing in every way, shape, and form to Nvidia. If you can get out with a break even or a profit, anything in the plus column on Nvidia before the earnings report of Micron on Wednesday, you need to get out. Couple other things really quickly. I sent out a FedEx trade. They have their earnings tomorrow. I'm not holding out a lot of hope that we get into that trade. The mid price jumped on it dramatically. The mid price is actually higher than the spread on that trade right now. I may send something else, in the next hour or two with FedEx. I want to manage these trades that we're in first and foremost. I want to make sure we get out of AMD with some profit, get out of Nvidia with some profit. But I also want to add some new trades this week. I would like to add 2 or 3, maybe 4 new trades this week, especially if we find ourselves out of AMD in short order. Like if in the next few hours we can be out of AMD, that kind of, to me, that sort of opens the door to add another trade in there. So I'll be watching that one closely. I'm going to try to do some type of trade on Micron. And I'm looking at some other companies. One that I was looking at was Boeing. Boeing doesn't report their earnings until towards the latter part of July. But I kind of like that Boeing is setting almost exactly halfway between their recent high and their recent low. even when Boeing I mean, some people would look at that and say that's kind of a stagnant pattern on Boeing, but even within that, it's usually moving up or down and not getting into for anything more than a couple of days these really tight patterns. I have a feeling Boeing will break back down to this 210 area or move up to this 230 area. And I see maybe a 2 week out long iron condor on Boeing. I was looking at it before the market opened. The prices were kind of attractive. I'm going to continue to look at that. If we went out to July 2nd and on the short side of our spreads, meaning the short call side, if we were at a 227.50 here and we were at a 217.50 here, which is a lot of room for it to move past that up or down. I've got a mid price on a trade on a 250 spread on that. I've got a mid price sitting at 151. That's attractive to me because again, I don't think Boeing, it's 2 weeks out, and I don't think for anything more than a few days you'd see Boeing get stuck right here in this middle spot. So I may do something like that today. But I am working on those trades. Watch Discord if you can. I will send out an email with new trades as well. We'll do a new trade for the Signal newsletter this week. I Let me give you now as a final thing before I wrap this up and end this morning. I think the three major indexes, as we continue to negotiate this Iran deal, I think over the next week to week and a half, meaning until the end of June, I think you will see each of the three major indexes tick back up and maybe touch their all-time highs, maybe get back to where they're once again testing those all-time highs. Um, I see that happening with all three of these indexes, but I will tell you after that, once that Iran deal is officially done and signed, people are going to pick it apart. People are going to have issues with it, probably on both sides of the aisle. That's fine. We can have those debates. But I do believe the markets, the indexes are going to roll over and go somewhat bearish for the rest of the summer. It's going to be that buy the rumor, sell the news thing. We're getting excited about this Iran war coming to an end. We're getting excited about gasoline prices going down. That will help the rest of summer travel. That'd be good for the economy. All of that is good. And I think once it's kind of finalized and in place, you're going to see that letdown, that sigh of relief, so to speak, for lack of a better way to describe it. And these markets are going to sell off, and I think they're going to sell off pretty, not massively. I don't look for anything more than a 10% correction, maybe 10 to 12% at the very most. I don't think we're going to go into the 15 to 20% pullback, but I think you're going to see these major indexes pull back. I think that'll be a long-term healthy thing for this market. And I think it'll give us a lot of opportunity to take advantage and get into some more stuff. But we got to be prepared for that. We got to be hedged well, and we've got to be prepared. So that's my official prediction for the next few weeks and maybe the next couple months. All right, I'm going to wrap up right there. As much as you're able to, keep an eye on Discord. But anything I send on Discord today, I'll try and very shortly afterwards send it out on an email for everybody. And I look forward to a strong week this week. Maybe a good start next week, not without some road bumps. I don't expect every day this week to be bullish, but a few little road bumps. But overall, I think we'll have a strong week this week. We'll start the week next week strong, and then I think you're going to see a tipping over and a rolling over of these markets in July. So we'll see if I'm right on that. All right, have a great Monday, everybody. We'll see you back here live right at the open of tomorrow's market. Bye bye.